Well, welcome back to Bread and Butter, where we are serving up the basics for Hearthstone's improvement. This is episode 146, and as always, I am joined by Pylet. Pylet, how are you today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, actually, and we are joined all the way from across the Atlantic Ocean. We have TicTac today. TicTac, how are you?
Hey, what's up? I'm good. I'm good.
So TicTac, what have you been doing inside of the game of Hearthstone lately?
So I've been streaming more and more. I started. So I've been trying to stream as much as I can lately, but I've been very much streaming during the summer, and then I took a bit of a break as the school year started again, early September, and then now I'm kind of trying to find my groove again, where I stream 2, 3, 4 times a week, depending on how busy I am and so on. And so yeah, I've been really loving streaming.
What particular decks have you been playing lately? Anything catching you? How you like the meta?
The meta, honestly, I'm not a fan of the meta right now. The patch did make it a tiny bit better. Like, it made Warlock worse. It made what else got nerfed? Owl Druid a tiny bit as well. But I'm not a big fan of Hunter. I'm not a big fan of Discover Hunter as a whole, and it's been taking a huge spot in top legend right now. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. And control decks have a really hard time dealing with Hunter if they don't run a lot of armor gain. And so basically the only kind of good counter has been Warrior, which I'm not the biggest fan of playing. So yeah, not great right now, but it's okay.
Fair. Pilot, what have you been up to in the world of Hearthstone?
Just playing a little bit here and there, mainly trying to test what a fourth deck is going to be for THL, because our team was discussing it this week leading up, and we all kind of agreed that Discover Hunter and Turbulent Shaman were kind of not auto brings, but pretty close to it, and definitely kind of top two, and then some sort of Demon Hunter, depending on if you wanted to beat up on which deck you wanted to beat up on, either aggro or cliff dive. And then no one knew what to bring for the fourth deck, because it felt like there were a lot of bad options, but nothing that clearly beat anything else. So I went on a roll with Arcane Mage and went 6-0 when I picked it back up to finish the climb to Legend. Beating all sorts of decks, and I've been really enjoying that deck. It definitely is not the best ladder deck because there's too many things that just run it over, but I was expecting control in THL, so I brought it, and I was running over any control matchup, because you just sit there until you have your pieces, and then you pop off, and they can't do anything about it. And that's exactly what happened in the game that I played with it. So glad that I was able to, one, get the Legend Climb out of the way after missing last month, and two, do it with a off-meta deck that I really enjoy.
I don't know how off. I mean, it's not meta, but it's not that far off meta at this point.
It's the good builds of it, I think, are better than what the aggregate stats say, for sure. There's a lot of really bad versions that are bringing it down. And I definitely feel like it's a deck that once you know what you're supposed to do, it raises the win rate by about 10%, because it's easy to kind of get lost in doing things on the wrong order. But I definitely figured out early that there's decks that you just play one of the dragons out on turn 5 and say good luck, because if they can't deal with 8 health, then you just run them over next turn. And definitely decks like Shaman, where you don't do that, because Hex is a really, really bad card for you.
That's fair. So I have also been. We're not going to talk about THL for me this week. That didn't go so well. But I have. So I started wanting to try to make more decks a little bit, and I decided that I really wanted to take this idea of a bubble paladin and really kind of shape it and outside of what was normally going on. And it really evolved over the week. And actually, I've had people, I guess, who have looked at HS Guru and have been like, "Did you make bubble paladin?" I'm like, "Maybe." I don't know. I've never been in that position where people are asking me if I made a deck before, but it's happened. More than one person has had. It's been 3 or 4 people have said, "Did you make this deck?" I'm like, "I think so, but maybe I don't know." But I started off with just kind of like a really greedy, all in on the bubbles, and then it kind of shifted to my own version of pirate because we were casting so many spells on things, and we could reuse the divine brew and whatnot. And I didn't want to go in on it like with the same things as I didn't want it to conform just to directly to be the same drunk paladin. So I'm trying to keep it where I am and whatnot. And then it's it's been shifting a lot. I've had some nights I had success with it where I'm like 12-3, and then some nights it's like 5-6 or something like that. So I've kind of shifted away now to more of a build that Pylet sent me the other day that I guess has been big on the Asia servers, which has been kind of a mix between the bubble and the aura. And so you're playing the fabled card, and you're playing a lot of bubbles. You're playing the legendary that's got the pop. You have to pop it 3 times, and that's really fun when you start cubing it and you start if it has 2 hits on it or 1 hit, you just have to hit the shield again. Even if it has a shield on it, you just hit it with another shield and it resets. And it can get really frustrating for your opponent, and you can do some crazy things. So I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I've had a lot of fun. I don't like seeing warrior. Warrior has been kind of a pain in my butt. But outside of that, I feel like I even against Discover Hunter, I feel like I have a pretty good shot at things, and the Shaman, I feel pretty good into things. I still have a long way to go before I feel comfortable with like this being a deck, but we're trying to make it something. But TicTac, what have you been doing outside of the game?
Outside of the game, mostly uni. I love cooking, watching shows, watching movies. Not that much outside, honestly, because it's really cold right now here. It's really cold and rainy and just dark, and yeah, you don't really want to go outside too much. But yeah, no, inside has been nice. Just yeah, chill evenings.
So you say you like to cook. What do you like to cook? Are you like practicing?
It's mostly pasta. So like we're doing HelloFresh a lot. I really like it because I'm not someone that likes to just experiment things. A lot of people can probably relate. I don't really like to go out of my ways and try new things, and so having these recipes to try out every week has really been helping me just discover new ways of cooking things and like new ingredients and like things. Yeah, all of that combined, it's nice. It's really nice actually, and I wish I
Now,
could do it more, but
now, did this start because you got sponsored by HelloFresh on Twitch, and you're like, well, I should try this out, and maybe I can speak to and be like an actual spokesman for it?
not even actually, not even. That's the funny part is that I think I would have needed to be in the US to get sponsored by them at the time, and so I wasn't. And I still wanted to try it because I got it recommended by a lot of people, and yeah, it's actually really good and it's just really good. And so yeah, when a product is really good like that, like it's why not talk about it, right? So yeah, and
Nice.
it's really opened up a lot for me. Yeah.
So I've been living as I've said, I live with my parents during the week, and they've been doing the HelloFresh, and so I've had a couple of those things, and some of the things are really tasty. Like
Yeah.
I've had some tacos that they've done, and just a couple other things. It's just really, really tasty. It's got some good flavor, got good spices. It's got good. I think it's all in the seasoning too. It's like they're taking some very basic stuff and making sure that they send you the seasoning you need to really kind of make something interesting. And I definitely. Pylet, what have you been doing outside of the game? Have you been cooking as well?
When I have time, I enjoy cooking. I'm just not home enough in the evenings to cook most of the time. So I try to meal prep and cook, enough for 5 people when it's just me. But then I get tired of eating the same thing for 3 days in a row. But yeah, experimenting with kind of how to season stuff without looking up a recipe is kind of where I'm at. So, but crockpot meals are definitely the best. I definitely made that. So I've got meals for the next 3 days, and I'm set to go until we have a break from school. But yeah, just kind of winding down into Thanksgiving break for here. We've got 2 days of school before we get a nice 5-day break, which I am very much ready for. To catch up on all the sleep that I've been lacking. Did some of that this weekend. Then other games, I did finish up Shady Part of Me yesterday. Finished the last little bit of that story. I might jump back. There's some collectibles that I missed along the way that aren't too bad to get. I just had to kind of look up and find where they are, so I might go back and do that. But really, really fun game. Nice little kind of open book narrative to where leaves a lot of interpretation to the person playing it. I know when I was looking up story stuff along the way. That was something that the developers intended, to where they wanted the player to interact with the story how they most felt it. It is very, very enjoyable. Not an overly difficult game, easy to look stuff up if you get stuck in one of the puzzles or platforming things. So definitely a very accessible game for people interested.
Very nice, very nice. I haven't done much this week. This week went by really, really quickly. I did go to a retirement party for somebody that has been at the company that I'm working for like 40 years, and real great guy, tremendous amount of knowledge. We're gonna really miss him, but it was really nice to see. We all get together. We all contributed to get him like a replica of a sub that he used to be an officer on, and so we work in the submarine kind of world, and it meant a lot to him, and we got to see stories and all that. I can't imagine even ever be. I've been deployed. I've been in weird countries, but being on a submarine is an entirely different thing, and I do not think I can handle that. It takes a special kind of person, and we're gonna miss him. Outside of that, really, really quiet weekend. Just kind of got some stuff done, and yeah, but no one wants to hear about that. Pilot, we got any news this week?
We have just a little bit of news that I forgot to put in the patch notes, so give me just a second to get open. We did have a hotfix patch that was put out. Not a ton of major fixes, but a couple of notable things. Some of the issues with Broxigar have been fixed for both standard and wild, to where there are a lot of just weird things like Ice Trap prevented Broxigar from being summoned for some reason. Glide and wild, if that shuffled a portal into the deck, Broxigar couldn't be acquired from that portal. So those are fixed. They did take Raptor Herald out of the Zombies pool. So if you're playing the side quest that they put out, you can no longer discover that. And then a couple of things that they drew. Oh, one more bug fix. Fabled cards were not triggering Time Lord Nozdormu from waking up early. That has been fixed. So I don't know if that was all of them or just the non-collectible ones, but I could see that being something very easy to need fixing. A couple of things that they drew attention to that are not bugs, that are not very intuitive. If you are playing with or against Bomswandi, which is the Death Knight Fabled, those boons are player buffs, not card buffs necessarily. So this happened to me yesterday, to where I stole an opponent's Bomswandi, and the boon was no longer part of it. So it summoned a 4-cost or whatever the base is and didn't have the keyword. It does still take it out of the res pool, so it's still kind of worth it if you're playing against it, but that is not something that is intuitive, but that is not a bug that is intended. And then also, if you're playing as Demon Hunter and an opponent steals and plays a copy of the final portal to Argus, then you cannot get Broxigar. So both not as intuitive, but something that they wanted to draw attention to that are not bugs.
I'm pretty sure that no one ever really came across these bugs because no one's playing enough Broxigar for that to be worth it. 2, I have never actually seen, I believe, Broxigar ever play. Maybe once in theory crafting, but I've seen people play the cards. I've never seen Broxigar. Like, I've never seen them get that far. So maybe like these edge cases are interesting. Like, it probably but I don't know. I don't think it's really, if you haven't been winning with Broxigar, it's not because of these bugs. It's been because it's Broxigar, and it's sad because I really want it to be a good card. Any thoughts on these, TicTac?
Yeah, the Broxigar thing is actually something that came up a bit, because I used to play Control Priest, and so people were trying Broxigar at the very start. And so you could copy the 4th portal, get the portal down, and then get Broxigar yourself. And if they drew the 4th portal, they couldn't actually get the Broxigar, because only one Broxigar happens per game. It's not like other kind of summon effects where both players could get the summon card. For example, the Ruin portals. If both players had the Ruin portal, you could keep going and get the final Ruin reward. But like here, it's actually only one reward. So it's the proxy guard of the starting hand of the Demon Hunter that goes away and then comes back into your hand. But so I'm not sure if Pylet was saying that changed or
It did
if
not
that's actually
change.
intended. Okay,
That is
okay, it did
intended.
not change. It's actually, yeah, it's staying the way it was. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so it did happen to me a couple of times. So I would get the proxy guard myself, it's pretty funny.
So you're the reason why they had to clarify this.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I think it can matter as well if for grifta kind of things and also rogue cards with mimicry or the 1 mana copy a card from deja vu, yeah.
Mhm.
That can matter for some of these cards. But like, yeah, it's good to know those interactions that are sometimes very hard to know if you don't go through them once.
Fair. Anything else on the news, Pilot?
No, that is it.
There was an update to the creator program, was there not?
An update saying to be on the lookout for updates, basically. So there, if there's anyone listening who is, kind of waiting for info about creator program, they're getting through the log of applications that they already have and are trying to get through those, but they're in the process of updating requirements to kind of match more of what the current landscape is. They didn't have much updates, but basically saying we're not taking any more applications right now. We're going to get through these ones, go through and update what we need to kind of match what things currently are, and then open it back up again.
Yeah, and I know there's been some kind of anytime someone gets on the creator program, the people that aren't in the creator program get kind of upset, especially because they're trying. But like, the more people that are in the creator program, the better, and the more diverse, the better. And if someone gets it, even if you feel like, if you are a creator, you know how hard it is. So you shouldn't be judging other people because you don't know what they've done and how they've gotten there, and what maybe they're not as successful as you, or not as whatever. Who knows? You don't know. So I hope that as people get in, we celebrate them, and that's been great. I know we've had Brigidis, who will be on the show in a couple weeks, being Rachel, Ron Mexico, who all favorite of the show, always all deserving people. So I think that just anyone who gets in there probably has worked hard, and it's great. But I think it's time to get to know our guests. What do you think, Pilot?
Yes.
So TicTac, how did you get started in gaming, and how did that lead you to Hearthstone?
So it dates all the way back like 16, 17 years ago easily, where I was around 9 or 10, and my best friend at the time invited me to his place, and his dad was playing Warcraft 3 on the computer, and so I pretty much instantly fell in love with that game. I was already very much attracted by card games and board games in general. Like, my dad was very big on board games, and so we would play a lot of board games. And Warcraft 3 was definitely a 3D kind of board game world that opened up, and so I very much fell in love with every Blizzard game from then. I played Warcraft 3, I played StarCraft Brood War, I played StarCraft 2, Wings of Liberty, then Heart of the Swarm, then Legacy of the Void, and then from there I just kept going through different Blizzard games, and then Hearthstone came out in 2014, open beta, and so I got the key. I got to start playing in 2014, then just kept going from there. And I truly fell in love with Hearthstone. It's probably the first card game I really fell in love with. I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, I was playing Pokemon before, but I never really wanted to learn the rules. I kind of just put the cards on the table and pretended that I knew what was going on, but I had no idea. Where Hearthstone was the first time I actually tried to learn the true rules of the card game.
Oh, you sure have been successful at that. So where did you get the name TicTac?
I actually don't know. I like I actually just don't know. I know that I got the key in my mail, and at the time you had to just pick a name to start playing. And so I like to think that there was a box of TicTacs on my desk, and I just took the first thing that I saw. I like to think that, but I actually just don't remember. So yeah.
I mean, we can say for sure if your name was actually like Orange TicTac or something like that, but
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
we'll never know for sure. So you are a Control Priest main. what is it about Priest that draws you in? Why do you like Priest so much?
So it's actually funny that I'm regarded as a control priest main now. I used to not necessarily be a control player. I played a lot of combo, a lot of aggro in the past. But the thing that all these decks kind of have in common is that they have a clear goal, whether it's fatiguing your opponent, which in my opinion is a goal, but like to a lot of people, it's not necessarily a goal. But running your opponent out of resources is probably the main win condition that I've liked the most throughout the history of the game. And so I started by playing Control Warrior, then I played some Control Priest, and it was always very greedy decks that tried to out control, in a way, out card your opponent. And so yeah, I played a lot of Fizzle decks when Fizzle was a thing, which was a mix between combo and control. And Priest somewhat always tended to have the best control cards throughout the history of the game. It just had sort of the best removal and the best value generation cards. And so whether it was Illusha or Thief cards like Harvester that would steal my opponent's cards, and all of those cards back to back to back, I just played more and more Priest because Priest was really the class that would be the best at out carding your opponent. And so yeah, I kind of ended up playing Priest for a long time, but it's not necessarily Priest itself, it's more the Priest cards that attracted me more than the class.
Well, I mean, you say that, but like nowadays, you're kind of considered like the Priest main. You're kind of like, you know, when someone says Priest main, it's like TicTac and whatnot. So, what is that? What is that like for you?
It's nice in a way. It's nice because I know that, well, Priest is not a class that's played by many people. It's mostly Zetalot and me. And so when people are trying to find new Priest archetypes to play, they're usually going to come to my stream or my Twitter or whatever. And it's nice to have that recognition, kind of. But at the same time, I wish that there were more people playing Priest, because that way I could actually just go and look at what they're doing and what they're experimenting with. I feel like I have to be the one experimenting with the class, and that's kind of daunting a bit. And sometimes I run out of ideas completely, and I wish I could play Priest, but I can't because no one else is trying to experiment with the class. So yeah, it has its perks and disadvantages at the same time. It's a bit weird.
Yeah, and I like Ron Mexico also kind of feels that way when he's talking about Hunter. Sometimes it's just hard to be successful and also create new things and be interesting. So you talked a little bit about like the card advantage and stuff, but like what is it specifically about control as a play style that you like? Why are you a control player?
I've always liked being on the defensive side of things. That's also a main reason why I never really liked midrange, because I always felt like midrange was this in between aggro and control that doesn't really do anything. It doesn't really have like a clear path to victory like aggro does, where it's really like kill your opponent as fast as possible. Like maybe you have 7-8 turns, then you need to kill them. Where midrange is kind of that in between that I never really liked, and control is definitely on an opposite side where you can really look at your opponent's entire list and be like, okay, they have that many cards left, I have that many removal, I can plan everything one step after the other and know exactly how to get rid of everything, and then they're out of cards and then I win. And that's been my favorite way to play the game, which I know a lot of people don't like. I completely understand this is not something that a lot of people share. I love just mapping everything out and just crushing my opponent mentally, which is, yeah, I do get some hate from that sometimes.
Well, that's interesting because actually you and I got into it a little bit on Twitter about a few weeks ago because you were playing Dirty Rat in the what do you call it, the theory crafting
Yes,
event.
yeah.
And so we were chatting about that, and then like a lot of people are like, well, why, like the entire point of the theory crafting event is to do the cool things, and by playing Dirty Rat you're preventing people from doing the cool things. But like you had your own like so can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I completely get it. Like, I completely understand that people want to be playing their combo deck and use their combo cards to kill me. But the thing is that, like, the way I enjoy playing the game is to go to hyper late game, turn 15 plus, and run them out of cards. And so it is a bit selfish in a way, but like my viewers like to watch that aspect of my gameplay, and so I would be doing a disservice to myself if I don't use those tech cards that I can use in the theory craft. Even though I understand that a lot of people can disagree with that. I'm completely okay with people disagreeing with that, and I get it. I completely get it. And I think it's hard to find a balance between those things for me, because I really don't like the idea of sitting there and just knowing that the game is over before it even started. Like, I don't like the idea of turn one, I know that I can't do anything to win the game. And so I always like having those potential cards that can make me win the game, even though they suck to have to run. I'm not happy that I'm playing Rat in my deck. I never will be happy that I'm playing Rat in my deck, but it's either I play Rat in my deck or I just sit there, do nothing, and wait until they kill me with Murozon Time Warp, for example.
And but at least you and I think, proved something. We proved that you can have a civil argument on Twitter and be nice about it.
Yeah, it was really nice. Yeah.
So, what brought you to streaming?
Streaming. Well, I always watched Twitch. I already watched it when it was just in TV back in 2010. Zetalot was actually the very first streamer I ever watched when it comes to Hearthstone. And yeah, I guess I never necessarily knew that I could do it because I was always camera shy and not the most outgoing person ever. But going to event at the very start, when I started really figuring out that I was good at this, people were pushing me to try and stream. So people like Fino, people like Tyler, or not Ty, sorry, Fury Hunter, Janos, a lot of people that are very good players. Some of them are out of the scene, some of them are still in the scene. But yeah, throughout the years, I just met so many people that just kind of pushed me to stream, and that just kept me going. Oh, it's Show is the one I was thinking about, not Thais. Yeah, who also doesn't stream Hearthstone anymore, actually.
Now, who were some of your favorite streamers besides Zealot?
Well, my favorite streamer of all time is Glass, probably German streamer who hasn't streamed in many years. Right now, I would say Clark is probably one of my favorite, and then Regvam, Insane, Banter, obviously, even though I have a hard time catching his stream because it's not the best schedule for me. Yeah, lots of the very good players. Usually, I do like to watch high level gameplay in general when I watch streams. That's something that I really have linked. Whenever I play Hearthstone, whenever I watch Hearthstone, it's usually high level gameplay. I have a hard time associating Hearthstone with pure enjoyment, I think, which I should. I mean, like, enjoyment comes from watching competitive, I guess.
This is completely aside, but I'm loving watching the stream right now because I have you next to Pylet, and you have this headphone that keeps going to the left, and it matches up where Pylet's microphone is, and it almost looks
Oh, you
like
like
they
this?
join together, and it's great. So, do you make any other content besides streaming?
I've been trying to do YouTube. It's very difficult to do YouTube. I would love to be better at it. I hate editing, and I think that's probably a lot of what makes it hard for streamers in general to get into YouTube, I feel like. I wish I could just duo stream YouTube and Twitch at the same time and then post my video, my VODs on YouTube and leave it at that. But yeah, so I've tried YouTube. I want to get better at it and try to keep doing it and be consistent. It's just not very easy.
No, I feel so. As somebody that has 1/100th of 1/100th of your audience. I've also been doing the same thing, and like so, trying to figure out what's what. I've grown in a little bit. The most recent time, just doing shorts, from taking the the what do you call it, the low effort content of finding fun items that happened in a stream, converting it to a short, posting it, taking a good game, editing it for like down to like 5 minutes and stuff like that. But it's not easy. Like the people like Raren, the people that like Trump SC, the people that have had like real success on YouTube, you gotta. I have a lot of respect for anybody that figures out how to solve that, because it's a lot of work, and it's fun, but it's also a lot of work, and it's hard to do, especially if you have a family, a job,
Yeah.
and still you want to make the content, but you're also like, you know what, I want to sit down and play the game. So it's hard to like, I guess I don't know. So when the meta doesn't favor priest or control, how do you stay engaged?
Yeah, that's been something I've been struggling with a lot over the years. I've always had some pet decks that I could play hundreds and hundreds of games with, but that's been less and less the case as time goes on. I get bored quite easily nowadays because I feel like more and more decks feel the same. As you've played so many, as you play thousands and thousands of games, it's easier to get bored fast, I feel like. And so right now I've been playing Arcane Mage because I really like it, but it's not very good. I've been playing I've been trying to cook Imbue Mage. I've been trying to cook Control Priest, but Control Priest has been really bad. So yeah, I always try to experiment with new things, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
It always interests me because like even with Medivh and stuff, a lot of people are almost every set people are like, oh, priest got fantastic tools, and then priest never kind of.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times when people don't get excited about priest, that's when priest is good. So I don't know if we even know how to evaluate priest yet after all this time.
Yeah, Priest has been. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Priest has been really, really hard to build around because it always feels like you're missing one card. It's when Priest has early game removal, you have no win condition. When Priest has a lot of value, you just die. You just die before you can even get to your value. When Priest has that crazy, crazy late game as well, you also just die. And so it feels like there is no the last time that Priest was actually really, really good, in my opinion, was Barons, where it actually had all of the early game it needed, but it also had the mid game and the late game. Like all three were combined. And right now we don't really have early game that deals with anything. Like the shaman can get 2 5/5s on turn 2 or on turn 3, and they just laugh at you, and there's nothing you can do.
That's fair. Just curious, how did you like? It's not a control, wasn't a control priest, but how did you like Shadow Priest when that was big a couple years ago?
I did not like Shadow Priest. Yeah, I hated Shadow Attendant. I really, really did not like that card. I tried to make Control Shadow Priest work a bit, but I was never a big fan of the hero power. I always liked the healing aspect and the gain armor aspect and the have more HP than trying to kill your opponent. There's something about just gaining armor that makes me happy.
Oh, that's fair. As the Shadow Priest was one of the only couple times I've ever made 11 stars. I played so much of that deck. I loved it so much. I'm always kind of hoping they bring it some version of it back.
Yeah, that would be nice.
But do you like priests when there are kind of other versions of priests that maybe aren't quite control, like maybe like a more of a aggressive Zarimi or something like that? Do you enjoy it, or is it the control style plus priest that really kind of draws you in?
No, it's really the control style plus priest. It's not necessarily priest itself. I think I've never played a Zarimi in my life. I might have played. I don't think I've played more than maybe 5 Zarimis in my life. So yeah, I don't remember how many games of Shadow Priest I have, but it's definitely not in the hundreds. So yeah, it's really been if Control Priest is good, I'm gonna be playing Control Priest. But if Control Priest doesn't exist, it's okay. I have other classes on the side.
So if you can't play Control Priest, like if we, or say, let's say Priest has been taken away from you altogether, what class would you like to play the most?
I've always been a very big Druid fan. I think in Hearthstone, the things I love most are gaining armor, and then gaining mana, and then drawing cards. I think, and probably in that order. and so Warrior was one of the first classes that I really liked, and then what comes after armor, mana would be Druid. So Druid was another class that was I absolutely loved it. So I played a lot of Ionar Fizzle decks. I played a lot of Aviana Kun Druid. All of the combo kind of druids, I love them. And then other classes, I love mage as well, which is also kind of control-y, where there was the Kel'Thuzad plus the Natrius kind of mage, which was really fun. And before that, there was a Frostlich Jaina mage, which was also very controlled. Big spell mage, really controlled. So yeah, no, I've so many classes that can control. Warrior as well is pretty high on the list, but right now it's more mainstream, so I like it a bit less. I'm kind of a hipster when it comes to control decks. So yeah.
How did you like the quest for Priest, the most recent quest?
Oh, I really don't like it because it doesn't really fit the playstyle that I like. I think it's cool, honestly. I think it's really cool. Yeah, it just doesn't really fit my playstyle. I don't really like killing my opponents. So yeah, but at the same time, I didn't like many priest quests, I think, throughout the years. Just yeah, not a big fan of the priest quest in general, I think.
Not even Stormwind?
Stormwind was the kill your hero.
The Stormwind was you had to play one card of each mana, and eventually then you get a shard.
Yeah, I hated that one because it ends the game. So I really did not like that one. I think that's one of the ones I really did not like at all. Funnily enough, yeah.
Interesting, because I mean, I always thought that control. We talk about this a lot. We'll talk about this in the main section a little bit, but like, there's two thoughts of control. There's like control with a win condition. You control the game until you get to your win condition, and then there's control, which is just attrition, just like you just play until your opponent quits, basically. So, yeah, no, that's interesting. We'll talk about that in a little bit. What is your favorite deck of all time then, and what's your favorite maybe priest card of all time?
Our favorite priest card of all time is very easy. It's Zyrella, the 4-mana Zyrella. Probably the most broken card that Priest ever got as well, with Illusha. Okay, 2-mana Illusha was probably the most broken card Priest ever got, and Zyrella was probably the second most broken card Priest ever got. And then, favorite deck. Does it have to be Priest? Sorry.
No.
Okay. Yeah, probably Fizzle Druid with Anubrekan and Astalor and Bran. And Shadowed Reflection. Also 0-mana Yogg, I think, was at the time. Yeah, the Yogg that would get reduced when you played cards. Yes, that was probably my favorite deck of all time. Everything unnerfed. 2-mana. What was it? The 3/2 that would refresh 4 mana. Yeah, just completely broken cards everywhere. That deck was crazy.
So you heard it here first. The Priest main's favorite deck, not Priest. Just a final question. What do you think? What is something that people might find surprising about you that doesn't have to be Hearthstone related, just or that personal? Like, what was something you'd be like? I don't know. We already learned. You like to cook.
Oh boy. I love rom-coms.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice. So if it's a lifetime movie marathon, that you'll have that on the side while you're streaming. That's great.
Yep.
All right. Well, Pylet, I think it's time to jump into our main topic. If you're still around there, you still here, Pylet?
Yes. So, as alluded to, we are going to talk about control tonight, which I will, allow other people to lead a little bit more on because I am not much of a control player. So I will hopefully learn some more tonight. I dabble in it, but I like playing cards. And sometimes that's not the right thing to do in control.
Thanks to Language Hacker, I'm more of a control player than I ever used to be.
So, we've kind of talked about it a little bit of how would you define control TicTac for just as a general deck archetype? How would you define control for other people?
Oh my god. This is gonna be very controversial, huh? I mean, to me, control has always been the kind of archetype that does well into aggro, loses to combo. That's kind of the rock paper scissors dynamic of it. So it's usually a deck that can survive rather long, has a big amount of removal. Usually, I would say more spells than minions almost, because it just has a lot of removal and life gain. It's definitely a term that's gotten more and more complex over the years as more cards get added, and control decks nowadays it just doesn't really have any meaning to me to call a deck control. It just you can have a deck that just aggros, controls, and combos all in one, and we call it control or aggro or combo. It's like, yeah, it's very weird. It's definitely very weird the Hearthstone that we're playing now compared to the Hearthstone we were playing maybe in 2016, for example, where it was way easier to actually define those terms.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I mean, I started playing in 2020, so I didn't see some of the older, control. I missed, thankfully, the Elysiana Control Warrior Mirror days. Probably for the better for me. But it definitely has, and I know it comes up all the time that a deck was always called control until they added a win condition, and then it was suddenly combo. When it really wasn't. It was just, hey, there's actually a way to end the game. But it definitely felt like a lot of older control was very much attrition style, like you talked about. It seems like you enjoy a lot more just grinding out the game, knowing how to use and generate resources, and kind of just slowly building through. And you don't have this card or these sets of cards or things that are going to end the game, but eventually your opponent's going to run out of stuff first.
Yeah, so like if we think about control as a deck throughout the years, back in 2015, 2016 maybe, Control Warrior, its win condition was Gromash plus Cool Taskmaster. That was the way you would end games. Your opponent would maybe have a weak turn. You would play 9 mana Alexstrasza, put your opponent to 15, have Fiery War Axe equipped, and Grom Taskmaster in hand, and that would be the 15 to kill them. If they didn't have healing, armor gain, or taunt, you win the game. And your playstyle, like your win con, quote unquote, until then was to try to stay alive and just get to that cool Taskmaster Grom Alexstrasza combo. But that, like, you didn't call it a combo deck at the time because you could also use Grom to trade a minion or Taskmaster to activate and execute, or you would have that kind of like burst of damage, but that would never really be the main way you win the game. Well, nowadays you play against a Protoss Mage, you're just sitting there. They're gaining a bunch of armor. They're doing kind of what Control Warrior used to do. They're removing your board, gaining armor. But then at some point, they just have 60 damage from hand. And so it's not the Grom cool Taskmaster that we used to have. It's like full 60 damage, which, well, no decks in the past would even do. And so it's funny because would you consider Freeze Mage from 2017 or 2016 to be a control deck? Or would you consider it to be a combo deck? Because that deck was basically just removing minions and gaining armor and waiting for a long time, and then at some point that it had damage from hand. But so yeah, it's very hard to define these now. Very, very hard.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. So, when you're playing control, I'm going to talk a little bit about how you kind of approach different matchups. So, I feel like aggro is the quote unquote most straightforward one to approach, especially because it's the archetype that control is generally built best to beat So how do you typically approach an aggro matchup?
Yes, it's funny that you talk about that matchup because aggro has gotten so good at killing you that we're kind of in a meta where where control is not that good against aggro anymore. If I'm playing control priest right now, I could put in every single removal card that my class has access to right now, and I would still be losing to aggro. Like I would still be losing to Demon Hunter. I would still be losing to Face Hunter potentially. Well, I don't know if you consider Shaman aggro. I guess Shaman is more mid range, but I would get completely destroyed by Shaman. And so we have control decks that are good against aggro, but then we have other control decks that are good against the control decks that are good against aggro. And that's kind of where Priest is. Priest is the control deck that's good against the control deck that's good against aggro. It's not necessarily good against aggro itself, and it can be okay against combo because you have cards like Dirty Rat and so on. And so the aggro matchups now are weird because aggro doesn't really run out of resources. It just has constant pressure very early on. I would consider, for example, Quest Warlock to be an aggro deck. I know Quest Warlock got nerfed and doesn't really exist anymore, but I think that's a very good example of an aggro deck that would never run out of resources. They would get on the board pretty early. They would complete their quest by turn 5-6, and then play their portal, and then it was just non-stop aggression. And so Warrior actually had a hard time against that unless maybe you would get Tortola on turn 5. That was probably one of the best ways to actually counter them. But so control became better against mid-range than it did against aggro. And even combo actually got better against aggro over time. I'm thinking of decks like Owl Druid, for example. Owl Druid with Chalice, double swipe, and so on got so much better against aggro than most control decks. So yeah, it's really not black and white anymore. It's very, very hard to define all of these aggro combo control kind of terms.
It's funny too because like I think Quest Paladin is also kind of there. It's just like an aggro deck that just never kind of runs out of resources. They just go. Do you think it's good that we kind of have this kind of blurred view of it's no longer just aggro combo mid range control? It's kind of just a homogenization of things. It's just like I have a deck versus a specific style of deck. Is that good or is that bad?
Yeah, I mean that's how we get decks like Cards Rogue or Cards DK. People just don't even know what names to give to the decks anymore because it's just sometimes you kill your opponent, sometimes you run them out of cards, sometimes you kill them really early as well. I don't mind it that much, but I also wish that we had more decks that were just I do this really well, and this is my archetype, and I can play like a control warrior deck that just gains a lot of armor and has some kind of win condition. That's why I actually really like Odin Warrior. And some people might have disliked Odin Warrior, and I think that's completely fine. But Odin Warrior was really that one deck where I'm going to gain armor, and then I'm going to play my big card that converts that armor into damage, and I'm going to try to kill you with my armor. And so if you had disruption against that deck, that was really good because you knew when they wanted to drop the Odin. You knew the best timing to actually try to disrupt them. And I think aggro decks are also nice sometimes that way. I think I actually like aggro Demon Hunter because I feel like aggro Demon Hunter is quote unquote an honest aggro deck. It does a lot of very strong things, but in the end of the day, it can run out of cards. It can just lose on board at some point. It doesn't have infinite removal, infinite damage. It just does one strong play after another until turn 5-6 maybe, and then it kind of fizzles out. And so if you survive that long, usually you win. So yes and no. I wish there was more very, very straightforward. This is control, this is aggro, this is combo. But I don't mind the fact that there are more and more decks that just makes a bit of everything. Because I think with power creep, it's meant to happen as well.
I think it's interesting you bring up Odin Warrior too, because Odin Warrior was a deck that I think I really learned. I hated Odin Warrior. I hated playing against it, but it also taught me a lot in that I knew what they were trying to do. I knew when they were trying to do it. And the way to win against that deck was to find a way to pressure them in a way that they couldn't make that play to get the Odin down, because if they got the Odin down, they were dead next turn, versus giving them the time to get that down and then you were dead and whatnot. So I that was I think a very interesting deck to learn how to play against, as far as a control deck was.
Yeah, and I think actually Aviana Priest is a bit like that too now, where you have that big legendary that can win you the game, and you try to set it up, and they know you want to set it up, and so that's that whole game of cat and mouse of trying to be like, okay, you have 10 damage on board, I'm at 25 HP, can I die if I drop the Aviana now? Can I not die, etc.? And I think that dynamic is really, really interesting.
What do you think about Protoss Priest? Where does that go? I hate Protoss Priest. I hate with the
I
passion of
hate
a
it.
thousand suns.
I have 0 games of Protoss Priest. Like, I literally have no games of Protoss Priest. The deck came out, I found it completely uninteresting, never touched it. So yeah.
Nice.
But I actually kind of liked Protoss Mage because of that whole armor and games going long kind of thing, even though now it's very outdated.
Yeah. How about the approach to combo? Because combo is definitely an archetype that we typically think beats control.
Yeah, combo is also in a weird spot where you have so many of these decks that just rely on minions to kill your opponent. Whether it's Deus, Colossus, or the quest reward in Warrior, and so you can run Murzond, or Owl, obviously. So you have all of these minions that are kind of game winning enablers that I don't really like. And so you get into this unhealthy spot where if you want to beat combo, you have to play a lot of disruption, but then you have to play disruption in your deck, which is dead in a lot of other matchups, and so you make yourself worse into most matchups to be better into combo. And I like it when combo decks are more spell based than minion based, because then the disruption is not as easy to have. But at the same time, I don't like when the combo is just play one card, win the game. So it's a very hard equilibrium to have, because I always disliked playing against Quest Warlock, because they would just sit there. Not Quest Warlock, sorry. Wheel Warlock, because they would sit there, gain a lot of armor, play their wheel, and then that's the game. But if you have a deck that actually needs to assemble multiple spells, kind of like Owl Druid, but not really. I can't really think of a good example right now. But I know there have been decks like that.
Nature Shaman, the one where you had to
Yes,
get the
okay,
Crash of Thunders, the lightning, and all that.
Nature Shaman is a good example where you would get a lot of damage down in one turn. That would be really, really strong, but it was not 80 damage like Owl Druid can do. So it's kind of an in-between where you can gain HP and beat the combo if you have enough armor gain, and you don't need to rely on disruption, even though, yeah, there was still neophyte and things like that, but yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you on the issues with cards like Wheel, to where I think I've said something about it before when we were talking about it months ago, to where Wheel Warlock was a problem because it just killed a lot of other control decks, because if you're in a control mirror, Wheel just wins. Because if you're not built to put pressure, then you're kind of just stuck there.
But don't you think you need cards like that sometimes? Because even if, like, let's say the control is really strong, if the control if control is just going to gain like a million armor, like armored demon hunter or whatever like that, and there's no way to get around it, having a way to counter that and like, okay, hey, gain all the armor you want. Guess what? Now you have to kill me in 4 turns. Like you need stuff like that occasionally. Otherwise, control gets really frustrating and boring to play against, because then you start playing, you want to play a game, and it's like, well, no, it's going to take me 30 minutes and I don't get to do anything and I lose, and that wasn't fun. So I think I can wheel kind of cards like wheel make it interesting, where it it changes the way you have to think about the game, and you have to find a way to actually not just sit there. The meta has to shift in ways, because I think that if, as much as you might like to play control, it really sucks if you don't like to play control and you just like can't beat your opponent because all they do is gain 1,000,000 armor and you just do nothing. So I think cards like that are interesting and do exist for a good reason.
Yeah, while I completely agree with that, I feel like the difference with a card like Wheel is that it's not really a combo. It's just sitting there and gaining a lot of armor and then playing one card that wins you the game, versus slowly assembling that combo that can potentially kill the control player. And so that's where I feel like there is a big difference, because when you played, for example, Nature Shaman, you actually needed to get to that big combo with bioluminescence and with like all that armor gain, and with Feral Spirit, and maybe with 10 cards in hand, and maybe with even more cards because you would draw from your deck, and so it would be like maybe a 14 card combo or something like that. Where here it's just armor gain plus one card win the game. That's also what I didn't like about the Priest quest, because it felt like you just play all of these cards on curve and then suddenly you have the win the game button. I think if you want to beat control, it's a good thing that combo decks require a lot of steps at doing so. And you can also play control mirrors with greedy cards. That's also something that people like doing. I do understand that if you want to play aggro and you queue into control, it's really frustrating. I completely get that. And I think that's also where mid-range kind of comes into play, and where you can have those Defraddle decks that can be really threatening to warriors, for example. You can play Bone Zombie DK that revives your Bone Zombie a bunch of times with like the 2/2, and just have these massive boards that are just that the control decks just can't deal with, at least not in one turn. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of those win in X amount of turns win con for control. That's also what I think Colossus kind of is indirectly. It's really that win the game button. I wait, I get a bunch of armor, and then I win the game with 60 damage, 80 damage, whatever.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Just something, because it's so uninteractable. And if it was in a deck that also wasn't, destroying aggro because, Wheel Warlock gained 1,000,000 armor and was constantly healing with consumes and everything else, then, if it was just there beating up on control, it'd be a different thing. But it was beating aggressive decks and pushing out any other control deck, because any control deck just loses to the I win the game. I have 100 health. I win in 5 turns.
And there's the balance, right? Like I agree with that too. Like if it was I win the game in 4 turns and that kind of stopped control, great. If aggro was able to get under it and make it so that way you have to make choices, and then you have a more balanced kind of situation where, yeah, sure, you're going to beat the control priest, but you're not going to beat um face hunters or whatever it might be at the time. So like when there's a balance like that, then it's not just like the 3 decks that you're seeing that just take forever or whatever. So yeah, but the other thing too is when a meta is too balanced, then it gets boring, right? Because then it's like you play every deck is 50%. So
Yeah.
then it's like, well,
Yeah.
how do I find it? So I don't know. But yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying as far as, yeah, it's boring when there's only one card, but I do like when there's something that says, hey, control, you need to actually try to kill me.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
if it's not, as long as it's not dominating the other archetypes as well.
Yeah, I think that there's just healthier ways to do it than others. Odin, I think, is a good example. Odin is a control win condition that is eventually going to kill you, but, gives you ability to kind of do other things with it. I think Baron's control priest was really, really strong, but there were ways to beat it still without having Wheel of Death to counter it. So Miracle Rogue might have been the Wheel of Death for that.
Yeah.
But So we've kind of talked about a little bit. How about your approach to control mirrors that aren't something like Wheel of Death and things like that, when you're in a true just attrition, I'm going to outlive you control?
I absolutely love these. I thrive on these. That's no pun intended, my bread and butter. I love playing 40 minutes control mirror, and I'm not ashamed to say it. It's just I sit there, I look at my opponent's deck list, I figure out exactly what cards they've left, and I find the best path to victory from there. I loved fatiguing people that were playing Kill Jaden as well. That's been my new favorite thing lately, where I would never copy their Kill Jaden with my Bob. I would just keep waiting and waiting and waiting and just shuffle a bunch of Elises in my deck. I have a screenshot on my channel that my board is basically 10 mana locations of Elise. And it's like ranked. It's like top 200 or something. And my board is literally just 10 mana locations of Elise. So yeah, that's one thing that makes me really happy when I play Hearthstone. And so that's also why I hope they never nerf DK to Oblivion, because I love farming DK with Control Priest, even if they run Kill Jaden or Starships or whatever. It's my favorite thing.
How have you felt about Kill Jaden as a Control Priest player?
Well, before I figured out how to beat the card, I really disliked it because it felt stupid. But over time, I realized that you can actually just out-tempo it. It takes a lot of practice and turns and so on, but with the right setup, you can actually beat even an early Kill Jaden, even if they get +10/+10s and so on, because they only get 1 minion a turn. Like, yes, it is infinite, but they only get 1 minion a turn. Even if it's a very big minion, you can still just have so many cards that you get to play multiple minions while removing their big minions, and they just end up dying at some point. So yeah, I don't think Kill Jaden should be in the game, honestly. I think it's kind of a stupid mechanic, and I don't really like the one card infinite value kind of thing. But yeah, I don't mind it either.
So do you something more like Kazakhstan, more where you had to like at least achieve a condition in order to get the reward?
Yeah, I mean, Kazakhstan was very broken, very, very broken. But actually, Kazakhstan is an era where I took a long break. I think I took a 6 to 10 month break at that time, so I didn't really play that much. But I liked, for example, Elysiana a bit more. I think Elysiana was kind of like KJ, and it would prolong the game, but it wouldn't be just this infinite thing where if you manage the matchup a tiny bit better, you could actually beat their Elysiana with your all in Elysiana potentially. Where right now, if you play KJ Mirrors with DK, most likely, even though KJ is not really played right now because you just die. At the moment you just die, you don't get to KJ. But when KJ was played and we had DK Mirrors, whether it was Triple Blood or Starship, Blood Unholy, or even Triple Blood Starships, KJ would decide a lot of the games. You would end up at the very end of the game where you would try to keep maybe like 1 Explo, 1 Ceaseless on both sides or something. And then you would play your KJ, and the guy that kept rolling Xavius or some kind of Discover or the Big Taunt or some Lifesteal minion would just get ahead really fast. And you could play KJ second and get -2/-2 worth of stats, and you would still be behind because they just get better minions than you. And so having that entire game that took maybe 30 minutes of your life getting decided by those random draws back to back to back is really not nice. It's really, I would not recommend it. It's really not nice.
So, what do you think makes a meta good for control in general?
I mean,
Actually, before we get to that, I'm sorry. I wanted to ask one more question about the mirrors. How do you get an advantage in a mirror, a control mirror?
Oh, I mean, resource management is very, very important. Usually what I do is that I don't really care about tempo that much. I'm a very greedy player in general. That's probably also what made me decent in control mirrors. I'm just very, very greedy with my removal. I'm gonna look at their deck and kind of gauge how much damage they can have from hand, and if I'm not dead, I'm not gonna play my removal, and I'm just gonna try to force them into extending more to then use my removal. So yeah, greeding your removal a lot is pretty important. Not caring about tempo as much as in other matchups, because they only have so much tempo in their deck. It's not min range, it's not aggro. They're not gonna have infinite amount of minions, and so you can kind of figure out how many minions they have in their deck and be like, okay, for that amount of minion, I need that amount of removal, and so it's fine if I just take damage now. Like I know I'm always going to be able to remove everything down the line.
So do you think people use their resources too quickly most of the time if they're trying to play control?
Yeah, I think that's something that I've seen a lot of people do. Is they use a removal when they're only taking maybe 10 damage on the board or something. They're at 30 HP, there is maybe 10 damage on the board, they're gonna brawl or something. And yeah, it's fine. It's fine to brawl that, but if you just play another minion into their board, they're probably gonna trade and then play more minions, and then your brawl gets better. It's well, my girlfriend makes fun of me because I say that a lot, but it gets better is really something that matters a lot in control. Like, you really have to think of, does this card get better, yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then you don't play it and you wait.
Sorry, Pylet, I wanted to ask that. Go ahead, continue on.
All good. So what do you think makes a meta good for control?
But the meta right now is horrible for control. So I can maybe start there. And the meta is horrible for control because you don't really have the tools to remove anything. Warrior is very good because it has some of the best tools at removing things. And so I guess one area that's pretty important is having good removal. For the meta to be good for control, you need the control decks to have really good removal. And that's probably one of the reasons why Priest is very bad right now, is because the removal are not good. And Warrior got access to not new removal, but Warrior got access to more card draw and more armor gain. And so that allows you to actually get to your removal. That's already pretty good. Warrior has really good removal. Shield Slam, Brawl, Shelnado, Invader, also Dracorex. All of these cards have really, really, really strong removals that Priest doesn't even have. Like, nothing comes even close to compare to those cards in Priest, for example. So yeah, I think life gain is also a big one, because we're in an era of the game where you just die if you're at 30 HP. 30 HP is not really, it doesn't really keep you alive anymore. You need 40, you need 50, you need 60 HP. And you have decks like Shaman that I would consider mid-range, right? Where they can pass for a bunch of turns, play their Elise, go for a 5 or 10 mana location, sometimes shudder the Elise even, and get to a point where they have maybe a 7 attack Alakir in hand, and a copy location with Elise, with attack, and then all of a sudden you take 50. Out of complete nowhere, you just take 50. And so if you don't have a crazy amount of armor gain, you can control them all you want. At some point, you're going to die. And that's also another problem with Priest. And that's also why I think Warrior and to an extent Mage are the only playable control class right now, because they gain so much armor.
So one thing we've had Zach go on the show before from the VS report, and one thing he talks about too often is whether or not you're talking about aggro v aggro, mid range, control v control. One deck is going to be the beatdown. One deck is going to be the control deck. Like, when do you decide that, hey, I'm not going to win this matchup unless I am aggressive, and I decide to try to play outside of maybe what the deck is designed for and try to push damage and put my opponent in a position where if they can't handle it, I'm going to win?
Yeah, that's usually what happens in control mirrors when your win count gets added or something like that. When disruption works against you and you lose some important part of your win count. For example, when I play my control priest, I have a very weird list that runs Raza, for example. And Raza is the way I get to shuffle cards into my deck and win actually almost in fatigue against decks like Kill Jaden and Control Warrior. Because against Control Warrior, well, before Mu was on, they could maybe do 80 to 100 damage in one turn with Time Warp. And so I would try to get to that 100 armor, because that's the only way I can win. Because I can't actually disrupt the Time Warp with anything. Like, there's nothing in the game that can disrupt the Time Warp. And so my game plan was to get to that 100 armor. And so I would play Elise and try to copy Elise with its own location, and then shuffle a bunch of Elises into my deck with Raza. And so that was the way I would win. But if my Raza gets ratted and I can't actually shuffle Elises, then yeah, I'm going to try to be aggressive, maybe play an Elise and go for an attack location or something like that. So yeah, it's usually if my main game plan gets disrupted, then I have to figure something out. And like usually it's going to try to be aggressive.
So, we've kind of referenced this a little bit, but I feel like there are a lot of very common pitfalls that people fall into when they're playing control. You already mentioned one of them of thinking that you have to clear everything all the time. And you need to sit and think, I have this one brawl. Is this the board that needs brawled or not? Or is this the board that needs this removal? And kind of trying to find the correct time to use it and not using it too early. I think we lost TicTac.
We seem to have lost our guest. We'll just have to pause here for a second. We will have to perform some control here. Welcome back, sir.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened.
It's all good.
You were just using some of your control mechanics to make sure that we were not advancing our podcast too quickly, and you could get to your win condition.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. You were saying, Pylet?
Yeah. But using clears too early or on boards that don't need it, kind of using resources a little bit too liberally and just kind of throwing out cards to play cards rather than accepting this isn't the time to play it. But I also think sometimes, especially in these matchups that aren't this pure attrition, I'm just going to outlive you, there's got to be a time where someone takes the initiative or tempo, especially with how the current set really is. There's very few opportunities just to outlive, because eventually somebody's going to end the game. If it's a quest warrior, they're going to get the quest rewards going, and eventually that's going to kill you. Or a Protoss mage is going to play Colossus 2, 3, 4 times, however many it is that they need to deal enough damage. And sometimes, even though you're a control deck, you have to decide, this is my spot to go in and put them on the back foot to end the game first. Are there any other common mistakes that you see people making while they're playing control?
Mulligan can be very important, but it's also extremely matchup dependent. I think people don't necessarily keep greedy cards as much as they could, or go for risky-ish lines. I think, for example, playing Izera early in the control mirror is very important. I think a lot of the time I'm going to be willing to take 10, 15, 20 damage if it means I can get an Izera down, because that amount of extra mana and extra just overall options, because having more mana really gives you more options, can let you roll out your game plan way smoothly. I can't really think of other things that are really important. Yeah, resource management is the big core one, and try to know how much damage your opponent can do. Things like bulwark timing, rat timings, when to gain armor, when not to gain armor, things like that. Yeah, there is a lot. There is a lot when it comes to control, for sure.
Yeah. So I have one more question that's not on the show notes, and then we can kind of give some final thoughts that's more directed towards you, TicTac, because you mentioned Control Priest is in kind of a rough spot right now, and I feel like Priest always has this issue of its removal tools are very specific or very awkward, or both, where warrior just plays brawl or plays Shellnado, or going back to the past plays shield chatter, just stuff that they were already doing anyways, and now it works. Priest is kind of always this awkward, it depends on the attack, it depends on this, oh, it's random, like cease to exist or whatever it is, which is a really powerful card, but it's a random effect. So what type of cards or things do you think Control Priest would need right now to compete?
I think we need some kind of single target removal better than cease to exist. So yeah, Lighted Burns obviously is the one that comes to mind. That was a very broken card. I don't think you would need to bring Lighted Burns back at 1 mana, but I think 2 mana Lighted Burns right now would already be very good. I don't think we need to go back to how strong some of the Priest cards were, but yeah, 2 mana Lighted Burns, or the 4 mana Hysteria was very, very good too. Clean the Scene as it was very good. And yeah, and Hysteria again was a card that was printed at 3 mana. I don't necessarily think we need it back at 3 mana, but I think just 4 mana Hysteria would already do a lot, especially against like Shaman, for example. Like if the Shaman plays, I don't know, Muradin with some tones on the side, and just Hysteria the Muradin, or you Hysteria one of the tones, and like that clears a lot already. But yeah, now we have to run cards like Ruin, which is just not a very good card. It's pretty expensive at 4 mana for what it does. It just half the time it leaves up minions on the board. And then if you go above 4 mana, like the best removal is what Light Bomb, which is very bad. And then Repackage is okay, but the problem is that Repackage is not. It is somewhat of a removal, but if you're playing an attrition deck, you're gonna have to deal with those minions anyways. Is the thing. Like they're gonna come back at some point, and so you're not really removing anything. You're kind of doing a sort of a time warp, but you're not really using the time warp to develop anything. You're just removing the board. It's like that Paladin legendary, but you don't get an 8/8. So yeah, it's
How do you like Imbue?
removal. Yeah, sorry.
How do you like the Imbue Priest? How do you like the Imbue Priest? Because the Imbue Priest gives you a lot of value like that. Where I've played games where I've been repackaged 5 times because they keep generating off of that. Like,
yeah,
is that a good mechanic for Priest?
I like the mechanic. I think so. At first, it was really bad. They made it really bad at the very beginning, where it was completely random, and half of the time you would get something that was not playable on your turn. Then they actually made it so that you would get something that was always playable, and it was very, very strong in aggro, for obvious reasons. Like you would just always be able to fill out your curve. And so yeah, when Jug was still giving +3/+3, the deck was really, really strong. And so I feel like it went from really bad to pretty good in aggro to now kind of bad and not really playable in control. It's very weird because I feel like the mechanic was made for control at first, but it only so played in aggro. So I like the mechanic. I wish it was a tiny bit more consistent. I feel like the way I would build it, which obviously would be very, very strong, it would be you click on the button, you pick between spell and minion, and then you click on that button, and then that gives you maybe 2 choices. And so you'd like double the amount of choices that you have compared to right now, but it would just be more consistent. Because right now you click on it, you see a Tosha and you see an acupuncture, and you're like, okay, what do I do? Like, it's just, yeah, okay. And then you're -2 mana because the 2 cards are not playable.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts on Control before we wrap this up?
I mean, my final thought would be that I would like it if we went back to some of the basics where Control had a really strong removal and a really good life gain, and maybe tone down some of the disruption. I would be very happy if we had no more disruption, but if, yeah, I guess overall lowering the power level and having Control be that very good deck against aggro that can actually remove boards, rather than that mismatch of different cards and different archetypes.
How do you feel like about something like Starship Blood, Leech DK kind of stuff? Is that kind of where you kind of would expect control to go more, or
Yeah, I think those decks are completely fine. I kind of do like those decks. I played a lot of Leech DK, and it's definitely more on the tempo side, but I still like it. You gain a lot of HP, and you can go kind of long, and you have Horseman, you have all that value generation. Like it is very nice. And I think ultimately, yeah, Control probably needs to take that kind of route where it can't really be fully like I don't think Control can be fully attrition anymore. I think it's very, very hard to have Control be fully attrition in a meta where you can just take 100 damage out of nowhere.
yeah, no, I've been really enjoying control. I'm kind of going away from it now, but it's definitely at least now a tool in my toolbox. I'm enjoying it. Pilot, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I've definitely played more Control lately than what I normally would have or ever guess I would have played, especially when I started. Some of that out of necessity, some of that out of a couple of the decks kind of drew me in more just because the attrition control didn't overly interest me. I think it'd be something I'd be a little bit more interested in now for whatever reason. Just I've enjoyed that side of the game a little bit more. Maybe as I've gotten a better player, I think about it more often. But definitely something to where I think with how control is now, I think people can find a control style deck that does kind of fit them, because it's not just it's not your Elysiana Warriors or your Galakron Priest, where it's just kind of I'm going to grind this out for 40 minutes, whether you like it or not. There's some variety in there, which is, I think, a good thing.
All right, so TicTac, we have one more final question for you. This is an important one. What is your
Go
favorite
for it.
dessert?
Actually, it's called cannelé. It's a French dessert made with rum and vanilla. It's kind of chewy with a hard shell. It's very, very good.
That sounds very tasty. And anyway, we didn't ask this in the beginning. Where basically are you from?
Oh,
If
so
people
I'm
are trying to
from
figure
the
out your accent.
right. I'm from the French part of Belgium.
Very nice, very nice. So if you'd like to support the show, you can do so by joining us over at patreon.com/breadandbutterhs. You get access to the raw audio early. You have access to a very special members channel on Discord where all our previous guests exist, and you can help ask questions, maybe shape future episodes, suggest guests, and just hopefully interact with some of the people that you wish you could. If you'd like to support us in a non-financial way, you just let people know about the show, or let us know how we're doing. Give us a review. Obviously, we'd love 5 stars, but we'll take whatever you feel like we deserve. And if we didn't deserve 5 stars, let us know why. And you can also find us on Bread and Butter HS on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter. But we've also been putting up a lot more YouTube content. We've been posting the VODs. You can see Pilot's cats quite often. In fact, the tail is just flicking him in the face right now. And that's worth the price of admission, as it is. TicTac, where can people find you on social media?
Mostly on Twitch. So TicTac_HS, and also on Twitter, TicTac_HS. And I think it's also the same on YouTube. And I will try to be more active on YouTube, but no promises there.
I also have the _HS under my name. But so if Hearthstone was to go away today, what do you think you would do as far as a content creator?
Probably TFT. Probably TFT.
Fair enough. Do you like
Yeah.
Battlegrounds?
I played a tiny bit of Battlegrounds. I really had a hard time getting into it. Not really my thing, honestly.
That's fair. Pilot, where can people find you?
You can find me Pylet712, that's Pylet, on Twitter and Blue Sky, and also on Discord and a few different Hearthstone related Discords.
And you can find me at titosantanahs on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. Especially on YouTube, we've been posting a lot of stuff around the show and whatnot, and just clips from the streams. You can also find me at titosantanahs without the HS. Sorry, Tito Santana without the HS on Discord. TicTac, you anything you'd like to promote or shout out this week?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Are we ever gonna see you in the I don't know if we have, if I've missed it, but are we ever gonna see you in some of these Masters tours kind of things?
I'm not gonna lie, I've had a really hard time getting back into full competitive. I'm kind of half competitive, where I don't really feel like fully grinding the ladder. If I do have more free time, though, definitely next year, 2026 maybe, yeah.
We'd be surprised. He's gonna be playing like aggro priest, aggro druid, aggro whatever, and no one's gonna expect it. Like, what the heck happened here? You were a big fan of. I'm sorry, I know we're wrapping up here, but were you a fan of the Sword of Truth priest stuff?
What priest, sorry?
The Sword of
Boars.
Truth, the boars, boar priest.
Oh, no. I never really played that deck. That's when the thing is, at that time, control was also really good, so I was playing a lot of control at the time. Yeah,
Fair
but
enough.
yeah,
I know. I was just curious if that was something that that kind of does have a win condition, but it's also kind of like you have to get there. I don't know, but it's probably more of a combo deck, I guess.
yeah,
But
it's
it
pretty
felt like a
combo-y,
combo
yeah.
control.
Mhm.
I don't know. Pylet, you got anything like to promote or shout out this week?
I'm gonna give 2 shout outs. One to Storm Rage because it's his birthday today. And we gave him an interesting serenade on Friday during Blizzlet's community game night of 8 of us singing out of key and out of time together. And then also shout out to Tito and I's THL team. We had some nice conversations this week leading up to it. We all kind of struggled the first week and kind of said, okay, we need to work together more on what we're bringing for lineups. Had a lot of really good discussion on kind of what we thought would fit best into the meta, and it paid off because I believe that we won this week. There's one result that's not in, but I think it was a 3-0, so we should have won this week.
And that's no thanks to me.
I wasn't going to say it. I thought about it, but I
I'll
wasn't
say
going
it completely.
to.
No, you need to bring it because I'll bring it to you. I'll tell you that for sure. I actually completely forgot to change my lineup until so Thursday night I came home, and normally I'm up till midnight, and I was just so exhausted. I went to bed at like 8:30, and I woke up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I never put my lineup in. And so I just copied Pylet's lineup. I took out the Arcane Mage, I put in a Paladin, and we went from there. And I don't feel like I played that bad, but like I just got rolled. I don't really feel like I had a whole lot of agency in the games we were playing. We'll have to review those games tonight, maybe Pylet, after the show. But I just want to thank TicTac because I know TicTac is up late tonight. It's probably already past midnight, and he's got a test tomorrow that he's supposed to be
It's all
studying
good.
for.
It's all good. It's in the afternoon.
And
All good.
and instead he's here with us hanging out. So I appreciate you, TicTac. And I think that's it, guys. I think we're toast. We'll see ya.
See ya.
Yeah.
Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.